Panzerblitz is a game of great subtlety. One of the important nuances is understanding how all the units can work together to form a harmonious whole. In today's video, the first of a series, we will begin to take a look at each type of unit and their best combinations here today on Legendary Tactics. And now a word from this video's sponsor. In the Panzerblitz Wargamer's Guide from 1990, author Larry McAnany goes over all the units of Panzerblitz in great detail, and this is one of the major sources I'll be drawing from in this analysis. First of all, it's important to realize that each unit has strengths and weaknesses that need to be understood and compensated for. How can this be done? Just like in chess, it's in combination with other units that shore up the gaps of a given unit type. In other words, mastering combined unit operations is going to make you a great player of this classic game. McAnany also points out that each unit has a psychological factor, and this psychological factor is as much of the game as the numbers on the counter. Furthermore, this psychological aspect applies to both your play and that of your opponents, and you will have to take this into account. In part 1, we will look at the static counters first. These are not just units with a zero movement factor, but are instead units which have no autonomy. They are not necessarily the most interesting units, but don't underestimate them as they can contribute greatly to your victory. These units are not able to move and so are purely defensive. However, they allow you to manipulate the terrain to help you predict the approach of your enemy and to channel your opponent's attacks. The first static unit are fortifications. These are obviously great on defense with a defense factor of 40 or 50 depending on the faction. It is critical that these are placed correctly at setup as you will have no chance to adjust later. Hilltops are the natural habitat of fortifications, preferably in cover. For your opponent, moving adjacent to forts in cover is generally a fatal move, but fortifications in the open will generally be taken down eventually. Losing a fort can be quite demoralizing as you usually lose valuable units with it and some aspect of control over important parts of the geography. Don't put units like infantry with high defense factors inside them, as their defensive strength will be squandered as a result. Your artillery is what belongs inside a fortification, preferably with infantry sitting on them to prevent vehicles moving over top and to defend from close assaulters. The nice thing about them is that they will likely force your opponent to go around them, as most situations do not give the opponent a lot of time or resources to try and destroy them. You know you have misplayed them if you lose more than one in a game. If they do try to destroy them, it will likely be some combination of heavy artillery and infantry assault, so plan accordingly. Next up, we have blocks. Blocks are a good way to slow the enemy down. The enemy will eventually be able to move through them, but at least they can't be removed from the board. Place a block in a way that channels your opponent's movement, especially on roads and slope hexes. The block itself will not be enough. You'll need to support it with units like artillery to take advantage of the delay in movement caused by the blocks. Just make sure that you don't place them in a way that hurts your ability to reinforce areas that are under threat. Next, we have mines. Mines are great mainly as a guaranteed attack at 2-to-1 odds. They aren't glamorous, but don't underestimate them. Simply put, these are going to be the best static units in the game that channel your opponent's movements. Blocks can be bad for the enemy, but mines are potential suicide. Make sure that you also cover your minefields with artillery to both eliminate any units foolish enough to try and sneak through by rolling a 6, and to keep enemy engineers away who might otherwise clear the mines given enough uninterrupted time. Mines are great to place in the open and in gullies. Place them strategically in combination with green hex sides to form barriers that are effectively impassable to vehicles. Finally, we have wrecks, which are deceptively effective static units, especially due to their permanence. On a road, wrecks can operate a little bit like a block, although you can kind of choose where they go after the scenario has started. Remember that 2 wrecks will prevent the Russians from entering a hex, and 3 wrecks will prevent German entry. As with all static units, it's never a bad idea to have artillery covering wrecks to make sure that the enemy thinks twice about approaching from that direction. The only downside is that it will cost you armored vehicles to set up wrecks, if you can call it that. And while there are a lot of helpful places for wrecks, you can't always know where and when they're going to happen. Wrecks that are accidentally left over from attacks can be very irritating. One can accidentally create an additional line of defense around an enemy position with too many unfortunate wrecks. And those are the so-called static units in Panzerblitz. We hope that this little guide has proven to be useful, and if it has, please take a moment to like and subscribe. This is Legendary Tactics.